to the finals cakewalk over here.
See,
what did you take your glasses off for?
Because I try to be nice.
Are those new ones?
You don't worry about all this.
Yeah, those do look new. Those are different than the ones you had on.
Now that's tortoiseshell, right?
Yeah, a little tortoise. I got it myself.
So
I found him side the road on his back.
It's the tortoise and the hare?
Yeah.
The tortoise is going to just keep on keeping on, and maybe someday he'll catch the hare, maybe not.
Who won the race?
The tortoise.
Okay, then.
Yeah.
Happy Friday, guys. We'll get to Lonzo Ball's rough night coming up, but let's start with Johnny Manziel. He is back, kind of. Manziel threw 38 passes yesterday at the University of San Diego Pro Day. 13 NFL teams were there to watch, even though Johnny last played in a game over 2 years ago. Yesterday, he addressed his past and a possible comeback. Let's take a listen.
I know I've rubbed people the wrong way. I know there's people that, still doubt what I'm doing and still doubt where I'm at, because for me, I've had spurts in the past of being good. I've had spurts in the past of, showing promise and like I'm on the right path, and then right when I think I get there, something else happens, and it's like kind of the pattern that's been in the past couple years of my life, especially since college. So for me, the key right now is just be consistent and continue to do what I'm doing day in and day out. And hopefully after, a year of solid, behavior, of solid workout regimen over the last year, now transferring into the 3 months of this year, I feel like if I can parlay in that into enough months and enough time, people will be able to buy into that and be able to trust what I'm doing again, and that I'm not just trying to pull a fast one to try and get back in the NFL. I feel like I've genuinely got a right team around me and the right people around me and a wife that cares about me and loves me enough to save me from myself, because at the end of the day, I feel like that's the only person that I really need saving from.
Shannon, do you think Manziel will get another shot in the NFL?
Prior to this, Skip, I thought there was probably a 2-3% chance. After this, 13 teams showed up. I think there's somewhere around a 15% chance. I think what he did was great on his part. He went to the University of San Diego and he threw to some receivers. Now, the receivers requested that he be their quarterback.
Yep.
But they're slated to be later round draft picks.
Yep.
So now Johnny comes in. It's not like he's upstaging anyone. Whereas had he gone somewhere else, maybe it's like, oh, Johnny's trying to take over their day. Now, my recommendation for Cap is to find one of these historically black institutions that's having a pro day and go through to their receivers and see how many teams were to show up. Skip, for me, this is not about Johnny Manziel on the football field. Johnny Manziel is the exact same height he was at the combine and what he was his first year at Cleveland. This is not about his ability to throw the football, because I don't know the gurus. Maybe he has a George Whitfield or Tom House or one of these mechanics in throwing the football in his camp. This is not about on the field. This is about off the field.
Yep.
Can Johnny Manziel drive by a bar at 10 o'clock at night with the neon sign that says open? Can he drive by it, Skip, and not park his car and go inside and stay till 1, 2 in the morning? That's what they're going to need to know. So someone's going to have to trust him. And like he said, I've had spells where I've been really, really good for a short amount of time. And that's the thing what you have to understand, Johnny. So you can see why people are a little cynical, a little skeptical, because you've shown this before and somehow you relapse back. It's just amazing to me, Skip, that 13 teams, and now it's hard for me to believe that 13 teams are going to show up to watch guys that are slated to go 6th, 7th round, maybe even free agents. It's hard for me to believe that they just showed up for those two young men or those couple of guys, those receivers.
No.
It's hard for me to believe that, Skip. And Johnny gets afforded privileges that we know one quarterback that sat out of the NFL last year did not get afforded, and that's one Colin Kaepernick. And so for me, if I'm Cap, I'm going to find somebody that has a pro day, that has some receivers that's slated to go in the later rounds, because I don't want to be accused of upstaging someone's workout, and I go through to them. And so while they're looking at those guys, they can see how I spin the football and that I'm more than capable of playing in the NFL.
So, here we go again. Speaking of George Whitfield, he is Johnny's personal quarterback coach and guru, and he's tried to stick with Johnny through
thick and thin.
Thick and mostly thin. Johnny got really thin about 2 years ago. He looked scary thin.
Yeah.
So I communicated with my friend George Whitfield last night. I've been very close to this story, probably too close from the start. And George said he was a little surprised that so many teams are now showing interest in Johnny Manziel that he's upped his percentage to slightly better than 50% that Johnny will get signed and at least taken to camp by an NFL team. Just taken to camp, and then who knows what would happen after that.
That's way more than my 10 to 15%, Skip.
And I would have been probably lower than yours 24 hours ago.
Right.
So after I communicated with George last night, I started thinking, wonder if he's going to pull this thing off. Because I used to love Johnny football.
You did.
And then late last night, I slapped myself in the face and said, you're doing it again. You are falling back into the Johnny football trap. Because it's easy to fall back into. Right. Because I keep harking back to that day in Tuscaloosa when Johnny did a number on Nick Saban's defense. Remember that?
Yes.
As a redshirt freshman at Texas A&M on the way to winning the Heisman Trophy. And at the end of that year in the bowl game, in the Cotton Bowl, he just annihilated and humiliated my Oklahoma Sooners, coached by the two Stoops brothers, and one was coaching defense, and they just could. Johnny ran for 229 yards in that game, ran for it, and threw for 300 something. Well, that was magic.
Yeah.
It was magical what he kept doing. He hung 42 points on St. Nick's defense at Texas A&M in the opener the next year, and threw for 450 some yards. And that's the guy that those 13 scouts went to look at because they're still thinking, God, that guy, if he could ever get that back.
Is some of that still in there?
Is it in there? So just for the record, before I get deeper into this, Johnny's got 2 auditions coming up in what's called the Spring League. And it'll be on April 7th and April 14th back in his old stomping grounds in the state of Texas. This is in Austin, Texas, at a high school stadium in Round Rock, which is just outside of Austin. And it's a bunch of players who have been on NFL rosters that have been dumped by the league, and they're trying to get back into the league. So it's a showcase for what do they have left? What does Johnny have left? So he will have 2 chances for the South squad to quarterback and show that he can still handle an offense, run an offense. Can he still move the way he did at Texas A&M? Can he throw with the accuracy and velocity he appeared to in his pro day ahead of the draft, in which Mel Kiper had him going mid-first round, and he finally went 22nd overall to the Cleveland Browns. John Gruden, my friend at ESPN, was campaigning that Johnny should go first overall, and I was buying into Johnny going to Houston because Houston had the first pick, and Houston was stuck with Matt Schaub and Case Keenum at that point, and T.J. Yates, and it just looked like silver platter because College Station, where he played college football, is about 45 minutes up the road from Houston. Well, here, Houston, you got your guy. You got the biggest gate attraction in maybe in football, college or pro football, Johnny Football, who is becoming an it kid off the field for all of his Twitter, Instagram, and unfortunately for all of his partying. And I'm still amazed that Johnny, he's become more of a celebrity just for being a celebrity, right? He's become Johnny Kardashian. He's become more famous to me for clubbing and partying than he has for playing football,
especially NFL football.
NFL, it's just a disaster.
But Skip, it's almost like he's turned himself into a sympathetic figure. It's almost like,
go ahead.
But poor Johnny, Skip. I mean, he made a mistake. He's a young kid. Give him an opportunity. And I have no problem. The guy says he's rehabilitated, but how many times have I heard you say this, that you're changed? How many times have we heard athletes, just not athletes, or anyone say they've changed, yet we haven't seen the change behavior? You're changed now because you're seeking employment. But when you gain this employment, Skip, will you still continue to be as proud and as happy? Well, I'm married, I got a dog, I don't have time to go out and party, all I'm training 6 hours a day. Will that still be the case? Now, obviously, you're not going to be training 6 hours a day because you'll be on the clock. You'll be preparing, but, you'll be in the classroom. You'll be practicing and things of that nature. But it's just hard for me to believe, Skip, that teams will bend over backwards. They were willing to give guys that's done so much. They'll bend over backwards to give those guys an opportunity. But there's this other guy, and every time we can't.
Well, but we know what happened to the other guy. He got blackballed or whiteballed, as you say.
Yeah.
We're talking about Colin Kaepernick. So that's an orange to the rotten apple that has been Johnny Manziel. And Colin Kaepernick was some orange because he came within a controversial throw of winning a Super Bowl, and he still didn't have a job.
Skip, he beat Aaron Rodgers twice.
Yep.
He set an NFL record for the most rushing yards by a quarterback at 181.
that.
And he, think about it, he's at 2 inches away from being a Super Bowl champ, because if he throws that ball 2 inches higher, instead of getting 2 inches lower, instead of the ball sailing out of bounds, it hits Crabtree in the back of the end zone. Or he's a throw away from getting back.
It's pass interference, but go ahead.
But that's just the thing, though, Skip. And that's what's so disappointing. And that's what people see. Why is it that Colin Kaepernick can't even get a call? Well, you have to change the offense. We just saw Josh Johnson, Skip. Now, he got signed by the Raiders. Josh Johnson was originally drafted by John Gruden his last year in Tampa. That was, I think, 2008. But Josh Johnson hadn't played meaningful football in almost 7 years. And he gets a call. And poor Cap, well, he can't play. Skip, he can't play. You know he can't play.
So, back to the it kid, Johnny Manziel, Johnny Kardashian. So, ahead of this draft, at least I give myself this much credit, even though I was falling for Johnny's Eddie Haskell phony baloney, and he can turn on the adult charm like nobody I've ever known. And he would text me and say, I do not have a problem with alcohol. But I was saying on the air, if he does have a problem with alcohol, I am out. And then later it was reported that he not only had problems with alcohol at Texas A&M, he was starting to dabble in cocaine. And that led to worse and worse. So, Johnny Manziel gets drafted and just goes completely down the tubes. And it got so bad that he just couldn't play. He couldn't even show up for meetings. He's missing meetings to fly to Las Vegas and put on disguises. And now he's telling these stories as if we should have sympathy. And I got to tell you, I'm out. I'm done.
You're not buying it?
I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm out of sympathy.
Okay.
Because I get this. Now he's saying, I was diagnosed with bipolar. Okay? So remember, he got a domestic violence charge dismissed because he went through anger management, he participated in a domestic violence panel that he had to sit on, and he went through an NFL-sanctioned substance abuse program. And he completed all 3 tasks, and the judge dismissed the charge. And he did serve a 4-game suspension to start the 2016 season, but he wasn't even with the team, so I don't even know how that plays. So I'm not even quite sure if he's cleared by the commissioner yet to be on an NFL team.
But I thought that for you to serve a suspension, you had to be on the team, because if you're not on the team,
not sure how that plays, how that works.
How do you suspend someone from school that doesn't go to school?
I don't know.
And so that's what we're up against. But here's the thing, Skip. You mentioned John Gruden. Now, John Gruden said, if I'm the Houston Texans, I take Johnny Manziel #1 and I don't look back. John Gruden is the coach of the Raiders. Why isn't Johnny Manziel on this roster? Now, he had an opportunity.
Maybe he will be. I don't know.
He said, I would take him #1 overall. You got an opportunity. You don't have to take him #1 overall. You don't have to pay him that kind of money. But it's amazing how he did it, Skip, because he found a school, he found some receivers, and I don't know how. These guys said, we want Johnny to throw us the ball.
Everybody loves Johnny. They want to hang with Johnny. Who does Odell hang with in the offseason?
Yeah.
He wants to be with Johnny.
And it's ingenious the way he did it, because the simple fact, Skip, he's not upstaging anyone. These guys got extra eyeballs on them, because you and I both know the majority of these scouts showed up to look at Johnny Manziel.
They did.
Because you could have easily sent some scouts to look at these wide receivers, Skip. That's what they normally do, especially lower level. Now, when I was coming out, Buddy Ryan actually came and worked me out. There were a coach from the Falcons that came and worked me out. So I knew the Eagles were serious. And Buddy Ryan told me, he said, look, Shannon, we're going to take some receivers. I probably, 5 of our top picks will be wide receivers. He said, if you're on the board, we're going to take you.
Yep.
Well, I was on the board. They took Fred Barnett. They took Calvin Williams. They took Mike Bellamy. I'm still there. And he said, I probably should have took you. I still had a job in Philly. But Skip, you and I both know this. They didn't show up to look at those 6th and 7th round picks at wide receivers. They showed up to look at Johnny. And I don't fault Johnny. I don't fault him for trying to get back into the league, trying to gain employment. I fault those the hypocrisy in which the NFL and its coaches and owners and general managers show, and how, oh, it's about winning. No, it ain't. It's about your image. And if you think someone has done something to that image, you'll bypass their ability and says, okay, it's about the image, when you and I both know it's not, because we know there are guys currently on rosters that's done. Look, we don't even want to talk about what they're doing, but we know what Colin Kaepernick did is not a crime.
Well, obviously
Yeah.
not. And yet with Johnny, the first thing I want to know, are you clean and sober? So that's the first issue that you have to address. And I know for a fact he's gone through a rehab counseling session even lately, because I hark back to that 2016 springtime right here in Los Angeles, and those pictures. He looked like
gaunt.
he looked like he had hit
Yeah.
deep bottom. And for him to bring himself back up to this point, as you point out, he recently, it's only a few days ago, he got married. And he says now he's a homebody and he just hangs out at home with his wife and his dogs. I hope that's correct. I hope he's seen the light that football is more important to him just to play football than what it will do for him in the nightlife.
Right.
Because that's why he originally played football only to become famous in the club. That's what that's what football meant to Johnny
Right.
Manziel. And then the club did him in.
Yeah.
Because all of that behavior, and remember, I go back with Johnny all the way to his true freshman year in the spring. He got arrested for a drunken bar fight that carried on outside. He got arrested by the campus cops. And that's the first time, that was the biggest red flag of all. And then in college, after his second year before the draft, he winds up in Austin, Texas, at the University of Texas, at a frat party, taunting his rival school while thoroughly inebriated.
What about those 4,000 pictures, those autographs that he did for free?
You could say that's a lack of character. You could, however.
No. I don't have a problem with it. But you and I both know no one is signing 4,000 items for free.
Yeah.
Not when you won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
So we know that.
How he only got suspended for the first half
First
of
half.
the Rice game.
A.J. Green sold his jersey 4 games. Todd Gurley sold his jersey, did autographs 4 games.
Yep.
So we just.
Johnny Manziel still has mystique. He still has star power. He's still a gate attraction. And even a year ago, remember, Sean Payton reportedly was meeting with Johnny because he was intrigued. So, again, the best thing that's going to happen to Johnny is somebody's going to bring him to camp and just give him a chance as the third quarterback in camp to make the roster.
Well,
I think he's played out his eligibility for practice squad because he's been 2 years in the league, so I think he can't be on.
But I think it's Skip, it's games also. So I don't know if he's met the requirement for games. But okay, well, it better be Tennessee. It better be someone that has a start. It better be Seattle, because or else you're gonna have to change the offense. And you know, teams don't like having 2 offenses on the table. Skip. Now that's what we've been told.
That's what we've been told. That's a very good point. Johnny is as quick in the pocket as anybody I've seen, and that includes Michael Vick, just on quickness in the pocket area. He's not as fast as Michael was down the field. He ran 4.5, but Johnny is a runner. And I saw, we had Nick Saban on the other show at ESPN, and I talked to him off camera about Johnny. This is going into the draft. And he said he can play in the NFL. A lot of people told me he can really play in the NFL, but Nick wondered whether Johnny could stay healthy. Well, he didn't even play enough games in Cleveland to even find out whether he could stay healthy.
Right.
Because he's stoutly built, but he is shade under 6 feet, and he goes like 205-ish, somewhere in there. He's kind of Michael Vick's size.
The question is that I had, Skip, could he stay on script? Because most of his plays was off script. You don't diagram plays for what Johnny could do. And it happened like Russell last year, Skip. All the plays that they were making offensively was Russell Wilson off script. He's pirouetting, he's running side to side and throwing the ball down the field. The question is, at some point in time, no matter how great you are with your feet and no matter how great you are making plays outside of the pocket, you're going to have to make plays in that phone booth. The question is, can he harness that and make plays from that phone booth area?
See, I'm not sure he can see out of the phone booth. But Russell figures it out. I mean, Russell can throw it from the pocket. But he has to create lanes.
Right.
Sight lines.
Right.
that he needs that obviously the 6'4" quarterback doesn't need.
And the thing is, Russell has a nice motion that's over the top. And
It
it's
is.
funny, Brock Osweiler has more batted down balls at the line of scrimmage than Russell Wilson. Brock Osweiler 6'8.5".
Well, so Johnny still he has more to prove off the field to me than on the field.
Yes, absolutely.
But you watch what's about to happen. On April 7th, the stands will be packed with contingents of NFL teams, April 7th and 14th in Austin, Texas, to see what he looks like operating an offense. Because there's still something about Johnny Manziel that these people think could work in the NFL. And again, do I, at the bottom of my heart, do I root for him? Yeah, I do. But, man, I don't want to get fooled again because I don't trust all this new contrition. I've heard it before, I've swallowed it before, and I'm done with it.
Man, you out, huh?
On that,
Yeah, well, I mean,
I need to see it.
Yeah,
the addiction problem, all of us kind of, once you hear that, we all have experience with it. You know it's very hard to trust that because they're going to be very compelling about how they've turned their life around. But if he does end up getting signed with the team, it'll be quite the show of privilege. Kaepernick still hasn't even gotten the call. Is Lonzo Ball